Thank you. Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace of the great state of South Carolina, member of the Oversight Committee, is with me now. Congresswoman, if you are looking at 12 to 30 nays, that's people who yesterday said that maybe they couldn't do this. How close are you really on the Republican side? I know, per Chad's reporting, Thomas Massey's the only Republican to say no so far in this very early vote.
Right. Myself, along with at least 24 others, have not voted yet. There are still conversations and negotiations ongoing. I've been up here for a while, and there have been a lot of empty promises made to fiscal conservatives. I don't understand why it's so difficult to codify the cuts that DOJ is looking at. Some of this stuff is very easy to get to 1.5 trillion in cuts. This isn't rocket science. It's there. It exists. We could do it in one or two bills even. So I just have some heartburn over that. But if we can get to a promise that'll actually work and happen to be made, and hopefully that's in the next 10 minutes, we're not sure yet. I'm waiting to see what the final negotiation looks like between House conservatives and the leadership before I make my decision.
Look, I mean, how are people on the fence here? It came out of the Senate pretty quickly when the House bill went there, and now it's coming back through the process. So what changes were made in the Senate that you feel, well, maybe we can't live with that? It was such a quick turnaround. I don't know what major things you'd be looking at.
Well, the House version of the bill had about 1.5 trillion in cuts, and what the Senate sent over was $4 billion in cuts over about 10 years, or $300 million a year. It's literally nothing. And when we're talking about getting out of control spending by the federal government, getting that under control, you actually have to make some tough decisions. You have to make some cuts. We've talked about the billions and billions of dollars uncovered in waste, fraud, and abuse by DOJ. I don't think it should be that difficult or that heavy of a lift to say, let's codify some of this. But I believe we'll get there in the next few minutes. And that's this is how the sausage is made.
Yeah, well, those tax cuts are critical now. They always have been, but certainly as we enter a new quarter this year. You mentioned, just real quickly, perhaps a second bill on some of those items. Even the president of the United States, I mean, I know he likes to say big, beautiful bill, but even he said, well, it might take one or two bills. Your last quick thought on this, and then we'll move forward.
Well, the Democrats set the precedent in Congress that you can actually have multiple reconciliation bills. They did it multiple times during the Biden presidency. We would be able to do it here because they set that precedent both in the Senate and in the House. And so I have no doubt we'll be able to get this figured out very soon.
All right. Breaking news. You've yet to vote yet. So you're part of what will hinge this process forward. More twists now. More twists and turns in President Trump's trade plans, and his latest move making one thing very clear: he is bringing down the hammer on China. Yesterday, President Trump announced a 90-day pause on most of his global tariffs, keeping his baseline 10% levies in place. And at the same time, he also raised tariffs on China to 125%. Watch.
A deal's going to be made with China. I just want fair. They will be fair deals for everybody. But they weren't fair to the United States. They were sucking us dry, and you can't do that. You know, we have $36 trillion of debt for a reason. They ripped us off for decades.
Earlier this week, Shark Tank host and friend of the show, the Faulkner Focus, co-host Kevin O'Leary said he'd like to see the president go even further.
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Congresswoman, I want to come right back to you on this. The American public watching this, what's your message to them, and what are you looking for?
Well, number one, I want to say I trust the president. I trust President Trump and what he's doing, utilizing tariffs. We're having countries now come back to the negotiating table to do trade deals with the United States because of Donald Trump's leadership, because of the threat of tariffs. I believe Trump, the president, and this administration wants it to be zero. So if France comes to the U.S. and says zero tariffs, then we're going to match it with zero tariffs. And that is the best way, I believe, moving forward. And I think he's doing a great job utilizing it as a negotiating tactic. He's being very strong about it, and he's bending the will of the American people, and he's doing a great job. And he's showing the strength of American trade and American jobs and American manufacturing, American consumers. We have value around the world, and we're not going to be taken for granted.
Do you think China cares? I mean, they came back at 84. Then it was 104. Now it's 125. And when they started manipulating those Treasury bills yesterday, the 10-year Treasury, I mean, you saw some real pressure, not just on our markets, but on the country. People were trying to move their money around. And as the president said, they were getting a little yippy, a little nervous. Again, what is the message to the American people when it comes to China? They own so much of our debt. Are they even afraid of us anymore?
Well, I think this has been a very educational process for the American people to see how much China owns. Now, when we all saw China's market tank on Monday, the United States market is much stronger than China's, and we held up on Monday. And so I think it's very important that we understand we're playing chess. China is playing checkers, Chinese checkers, in fact. And so I think what Trump is doing is brilliant. He knows this better than anybody. I trust him, and the American people trust him, too, and he's doing a fine job of it. But also, we need to make sure that we untangle ourselves as much as we can, I believe, from China and its markets, so they can't have this much control over global trade.
Yeah, not just that, the pharmaceutical independence. We need that. I mean, they make and put into our bloodstreams literally so many of our pharmaceuticals that are life-saving. We need to decouple in a big way. So if this is how we get there.
80%.
That is a lot. Well, Representative Nancy Mace with us today as she gets ready to go vote. I know a lot of people are pulling for the tax cuts to be extended. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you.